My name's Rachel Porter, and at 37 I found myself standing on stage in Fort Mill, South Carolina, clutching my diploma with shaky hands while my eyes scanned the crowd, desperately searching for the people who never showed up. 5 seats had been reserved just for them, sitting there in plain view, and every time I glanced their way it felt like a slap in the face, a painful reminder of their absence. I kept trying to convince myself they'd walk in at the last minute, that I'd see them rushing down the aisle, but the ceremony ended and those seats stayed empty. Whatever reason kept them away, I knew deep down it wasn't about me. Around me, the room erupted with proud cheers and happy families, but for me the joy was buried under the sting of being abandoned on what should have been one of the happiest days of my life. This degree wasn't just a piece of paper, it was the product of years of sacrifices, sleepless nights, and endless determination for a better future, and yet, to my family, it seemed to mean absolutely nothing. The real gut punch came seconds later when my phone buzzed with a text from Mom that simply read, "We need to talk urgently." Before I could even process that, my screen lit up with 45 missed calls from my sister Samantha, each one stacked on top of the other like warning signals of a storm about to hit. Before I unravel the details of what came after, I want to pause and ask you, what time is it where you're listening, and which city are you in? It amazes me how far a story like mine can travel, and somehow, even across states or countries, you're right here with me in this moment. As the calls kept pouring in, faster and faster, a mix of dread and anger rose up inside me, because I knew whatever this urgent crisis was, it had the power to shake my world apart. For the past 15 years, I'd been married to Michael, a 38-year-old construction engineer working steady hours in Charlotte, just a quick drive from our home in Fort Mill. Together we had 2 kids, Ethan, who was 13 and already deep into that teenage stage where every word out of my mouth earned an eye roll, and Chloe, my sweet 10-year-old daughter, who was slowly shifting from family dinners to caring more about her circle of friends. We lived in a cozy Southern-style home with a backyard perfect for summer evenings, though truth be told, I rarely had the chance to enjoy it. My own job as a logistics analyst for a mid-sized shipping company consumed me, especially during peak seasons when 48-hour weeks became the norm. I was sharp, calm under pressure, and good at what I did, but time and time again I watched younger men in the office get promoted over me. After my 3rd rejection, my boss finally said, "You need an MBA to move up. A bachelor's isn't enough anymore." That was the turning point when I decided I had no choice but to go for it. Winthrop University offered a night program for working professionals, and though it would take 4 years part-time, I saw it as my ticket to senior management and a chance to give my family the kind of life I'd always dreamed of. What I didn't realize then was how brutal the balancing act would be. I'd wake up before dawn to pack lunches and get the kids ready, power through long hours at work, and then rush off to class 3 nights a week. Weekends were swallowed up by research papers and textbooks, and soon I became the mom who was always locked in the office, while the rest of the family went on without me. Michael tried to be supportive at first. He'd help with dinners, run the kids to soccer, or sit with them when I couldn't, but little by little, I could feel his patience wearing thin. "You're always at school," he'd mutter while scrolling through his phone, as if I wasn't doing all this for us. At first, I brushed it off as stress until I noticed him texting late at night, smiling at messages from someone named Lauren, a coworker he mentioned just a little too casually. There was no hard evidence of anything, but my gut twisted every time her name lit up his screen. Meanwhile, there was my younger sister Samantha, 32, glamorous and constantly praised as the golden child. She owned a trendy fashion boutique in Charlotte, lived in a sleek lakefront condo with her husband Daniel, a 35-year-old tech startup CEO, and had my parents wrapped around her little finger. Even though Mom and Dad lived all the way in Texas, they never missed her store openings or fancy brunches, yet they couldn't be bothered to show up for my milestones, parent-teacher conferences, work events, and now even my graduation. "Samantha's just more fun," Mom once said, as if my responsibilities made me less deserving. Daniel wasn't much better, bragging endlessly about his company, though I'd overheard whispers at a family dinner about investors pulling out, proof that maybe a shiny image had a few cracks. During those 4 grueling years, I gave everything I had to finish that degree. I'd be up at 5 a.m., making breakfasts and school lunches before heading off to work, and after a 9-hour day of juggling shipments and schedules, I'd drag myself into 3-hour night classes. By the time I got home, the sink was full of dishes, the kids' homework still needed checking, and the house reminded me just how stretched thin I really was. On weekends, I locked myself in the office while Michael took Ethan and Chloe to soccer games and birthday parties. I remember overhearing Ethan complain once, "Mom's always busy," loud enough for Michael to hear, and it cut deep, but I told myself it was only temporary, just a sacrifice for the bigger picture. Maybe one day it would mean the stability we craved, or even that beach vacation Chloe kept begging for. But as the years passed, the distance between me and Michael only grew. I saw more of those late-night texts, and one night, about a year before graduation, I crept downstairs and caught him chuckling at his phone in the dark, whispering, "Lauren, you're too much." It wasn't the smoking gun of an affair, but the sound of his laughter over another woman's text lodged itself in my chest, planting a seed of doubt I couldn't shake no matter how hard I tried. "Mom's always working," Ethan grumbled one afternoon, his voice carrying through the door like he wanted me to hear it. Chloe wasn't any softer. "Why can't you ever come with us, Mom?" she'd ask, her little voice full of disappointment. Their words hit me like a punch in the chest, but I kept telling myself it was all for them, for a brighter future, maybe a bigger home, maybe even that beach trip they dreamed about. Still, deep down I knew I was slipping further and further out of their daily lives. Michael wasn't much of a cushion either. He'd throw together dinner sometimes, but his tone was getting sharper. "When's this degree gonna be done, Rachel?" he snapped one night, like my hard work was an inconvenience. I'd catch him scrolling on his phone late at night, smirking at messages that I suspected were from Lauren, and my stomach would twist in knots. But I was too drained to fight, too focused on finishing my courses, so I buried my suspicions and carried that doubt like a weight I couldn't put down. Meanwhile, my sister Samantha, 32, and always the family's favorite, kept living her charmed life. She owned her boutique in Charlotte, hosted flashy events, and our parents, who lived in Texas, never missed a single one of her store launches or charity galas. Yet when it came to my milestones, presentations, late-night study sessions, even the lead-up to graduation, they always had an excuse. "Samantha's got a big opening," Mom said once, brushing off my degree like it was a side project, not the mountain I'd been climbing for years. The sting only grew sharper when Samantha's old friend Vanessa reappeared in our lives. At 34, Vanessa had turned herself into some kind of interior design star in Atlanta, and last year she came to a family dinner clicking in on expensive heels, bragging about her latest project on a video call with Samantha. "You should see my new loft," Vanessa said, her voice dripping with satisfaction. Samantha lit up like Vanessa had just hung the moon, while I sat there shrinking, my hard-earned progress paling in comparison. It felt like Vanessa's success only fueled Samantha's drive to overshadow me, like they were in a contest where I wasn't even allowed to compete. To make things worse, Michael barely tried to hide his admiration for Vanessa that night, which only made my worries about Lauren multiply. About 6 months before graduation, I started planning the day that was supposed to finally be mine. I wanted Ethan and Chloe to see me succeed, to know their mom fought for something bigger. I called my parents in Texas, told them the date, and Mom gave her usual lukewarm, "We'll try, sweetie," which stung but didn't surprise me. I booked 5 tickets for Michael, the kids, and my parents, and made a reservation at Bella Vista, a beautiful Italian place in Charlotte that cost me $280, but I told myself the splurge was worth it for such a rare celebration. I even bought a navy blue dress with soft embroidery, elegant without being too showy, something that made me feel like I belonged on that stage. When I tried it on, Chloe hugged me and whispered, "You look like a princess, Mom," and for a fleeting second, I believed maybe it would all come together. But trouble was already circling. About a month before graduation, I ran into Mrs. Evelyn, my 65-year-old neighbor who always seemed to know the town's gossip. She leaned in, lowering her voice like she was delivering classified information. "Rachel, I overheard something at the community center. Your sister's husband Daniel was on the phone, and he sounded desperate. Something about investors pulling out. Big money trouble." My heart skipped. Daniel, the arrogant CEO who acted like he had the world in his pocket, struggling? Samantha was always bragging about his success. This didn't fit. Mrs. Evelyn kept whispering, eyes gleaming. He mentioned planning some big event to impress people. Sounded like a cover. I thanked her, though my mind spun. Was Samantha about to throw some kind of spectacle to hide Daniel's mess? 3 weeks before my graduation, Samantha called, her voice sugary but flat. "I'm hosting a barbecue at our place in Charlotte. Daniel just built this amazing outdoor setup, and we're inviting everyone. Mom, Dad, the kids, Michael. You should come after your thing." My jaw tightened. "Samantha, that's my graduation day. I told you months ago it's at Winthrop, 2 p.m. There was a pause, then she laughed like it was nothing. "Oh, right. Forgot. But it's just the ceremony, Rachel. You've already done the hard part. Stop by after." In the background, I heard Daniel's booming voice talking about investors, and Mrs. Evelyn's warning echoed in my head. This wasn't about a barbecue. It was a desperate show to impress money people. I called my parents, hoping they'd see through it. "Samantha's barbecue is the same day as my graduation," I said. "You'll be at mine, right?" Mom hesitated, then sighed. "Well, honey, they're flying us in, and it's been ages since we saw her new place. Can you do both?" My stomach dropped. "Mom, it's in Fort Mill, not across the street. The ceremony lasts 3 hours, and we've got dinner after." Dad cut in with his usual practicality. "Daniel's got clients coming. It's important for them." My hands shook as I ended the call. My own parents were choosing Samantha's smoke and mirrors party over one of the biggest moments of my life. That night, standing in our messy kitchen, dishes stacked high from another rushed meal, I turned to Michael. "You're not actually planning to take the kids to Samantha's barbecue instead of my graduation, are you?" When I asked Michael directly, he didn't even look at me. He stood at the counter chopping vegetables with way too much force, like the onions were the problem. "Rachel, it's a pool party," he muttered. "Ethan and Chloe want to go. Their cousins will be there. Honestly, they'd be miserable sitting through hours of speeches." His words lit a fire in me. Miserable? This isn't about entertainment, Michael. It's about showing them that hard work matters. I've spent 4 years missing bedtime stories and soccer games so they could see this moment. He didn't flinch. "Samantha called me. Said it would mean a lot to her and Daniel if we came." I didn't think it was a big deal. My jaw tightened. Samantha calling him directly, planting that sugary, manipulative tone of hers, it was so like her to know exactly which strings to pull. Before I could respond, Ethan wandered in, catching enough of our argument to weigh in. "I don't want to sit through a dumb ceremony, Mom. The pool's way better." Chloe jumped in, her face lit up. "And Katie's going." "Please, Mom, I don't want to miss it." Their words sliced me open. My own kids siding with their dad and Samantha's glittering party. That night, I crawled into bed alone while Michael stretched out on the couch downstairs, the weight of betrayal pressing on me until it was hard to breathe. Graduation morning came with silence. No laughter, no clinking dishes, no sound of coffee brewing. Instead, there was a note on the counter in Michael's handwriting. "Took Ethan and Chloe to Samantha's early to help set up. Congrats, honey." 2 flat words, "Congrats, honey," as if my years of sacrifice were a footnote in his day. My hands trembled as I crumpled the paper, blinking back hot tears. I forced myself through the motions anyway. Hair appointment at 10, makeup at 11, line up at Winthrop by 1. I slipped into the navy dress Chloe once said made me look like a princess and tried to convince myself that the ache in my chest didn't matter. At the ceremony, I walked across that stage alone. Rachel Porter, master of logistics with honors, the announcer's voice rang out, but the applause that followed felt hollow, just polite claps from strangers. No cheers, no familiar faces, nothing but the echo of my family's absence. As soon as I stepped down, my phone buzzed. Mom again, we need to talk, and Samantha's missed calls had climbed to 50. My chest tightened. Something was wrong. I dialed Melissa, my closest friend at work, who had promised to meet me later. Rachel, where are you? She asked, her tone edged with urgency. Just finished the ceremony at Winthrop, I said, clutching the phone. What's going on? She didn't waste words. Your neighbor Karen called me. There was an accident at Samantha's place. You need to get to the hospital. Her voice dropped, heavy with warning. Whatever's happening, Rachel, this is your moment. They've pushed you aside too long. Don't hold back. Her words sparked something inside me, a fire I'd kept buried under years of silence. The drive to Fort Mill Memorial Hospital was only 15 minutes, but it felt like hours. My thoughts spun wildly. Was Ethan okay? Chloe? Had something happened at Samantha's carefully staged party? By the time I pulled into the chaotic ER lot, my hands were shaking on the wheel. I sprinted inside, heels clicking against the floor, my dress clinging to me as if it carried the weight of every sacrifice I'd made. At the desk, I gave Ethan's name, my voice cracking. Bay 6, the nurse said, pointing down the hall. Pulling back the curtain, my heart nearly stopped. Ethan lay on the bed, his arm secured in a splint, his face pale and streaked with tears. Chloe sat beside him, her wide eyes fixed on me, terrified. Around them, the room was crowded. Michael, my parents, Samantha, and Daniel, each of them stiff with guilt, tension hanging thick in the air. A doctor, Dr. Priya, stood by the monitor, reviewing x-rays. Mom? Ethan's voice was small, almost like he was a little boy again. I rushed to his side, stroking his hair. I'm here, sweetheart. My voice broke. What happened? Dr. Priya turned, her tone calm but direct. He has a serious fracture and a mild concussion from falling during a basketball game at the barbecue. He's stable, but he'll need a cast and close monitoring. Relief and fury battled inside me as I whipped my gaze toward Michael. How did this happen? He shifted, unable to meet my eyes. He was showing off with his cousins, slipped on the court. Chloe piped up softly. It was scary, Mom. He hit the ground really hard. The guilt in the room was suffocating. Everyone knew what had really happened. They had chosen Samantha's spectacle over supporting me, and now my son was paying the price. I turned to Samantha and Daniel, who were standing just outside the curtain, stiff and uncomfortable. This happened at your party, I said, my voice low but cutting. The one you insisted on throwing instead of letting my family show up for my graduation. Samantha opened her mouth, but Daniel jumped in, his arrogance practically dripping. Let's not make this about you, Rachel. It was an accident. Kids fall all the time. I laughed bitterly, the sound sharp and cold. An accident at your desperate little stunt to impress investors. Karen already told me about your money problems, Daniel. That barbecue wasn't for fun, it was damage control. Their faces paled, confirming everything. Mom stepped forward, her voice pleading. Rachel, please. This isn't the time. My patience snapped. When is the time, Mom? When I fade back into the shadows again. I gave up 4 years for this degree, 4 years, and none of you, not my husband, not my parents, not even my kids, could give me one afternoon. Michael reached for my arm, but I yanked it back, my eyes falling on his phone lying in the chair beside him. The screen lit up with a message. Lauren, hope you're okay. Call me. My blood boiled, hotter than it ever had before. I caught him still chatting with Lauren Michael, and my stomach sank. I snatched the phone and scrolled through the messages, nothing filthy, but the flirty tone was enough to confirm what my gut already knew. First he ditched me for some backyard barbecue, and now this? My hands shook as I held up the phone, anger spilling out in my voice. Samantha instantly jumped in, brushing it off like she always did. Rachel, you're being dramatic. It's just a silly ceremony, she said in that same patronizing tone I'd been hearing my whole life, the one that reminded me she was always treated as the golden child. Before I could even snap back, Dr. Priya pulled me aside, her face serious. Mrs. Porter, I need to tell you something privately, she murmured. In a hushed corner, she lowered her voice and confessed, I probably shouldn't say this, but because you're family. I treated Samantha last year. She had a termination. Daniel doesn't know, it's in her psych record, and she was torn up about it. My heart nearly stopped. Samantha, the flawless sister, carrying around a secret this massive? I couldn't believe it. Suddenly, I had leverage I never imagined, an ugly crack in her perfect facade. I thanked Dr. Priya, my mind racing with what this meant. Back in the waiting bay, my phone buzzed. It was Mrs. Evelyn, our neighborhood gossip. Rachel, she whispered, I overheard Michael with that Lauren woman outside your place last week. They sounded way too close. My fist tightened piece by piece, the truth was clicking together. And then, like a miracle, Melissa showed up, her presence like a lifeline. Rachel, this is enough. You've been stepped on too long, she said, fire in her eyes. Take what you know and make them face it. Her words lit something in me, but then she leaned closer, her voice barely audible. Lauren's not your enemy. She's been working with me, feeding me dirt on Michael for weeks. I asked her to see just how far he'd go. She's been your spy, Rachel. My head spun so fast I thought I might faint. All this time I suspected Lauren, but she'd been laying bait to prove Michael's betrayal. I looked around at my family, Samantha pretending to care, Daniel strutting with arrogance, Mom and Dad offering nothing but excuses, Michael looking guilty. Ethan's injury had been my breaking point, but now I held something even bigger, Samantha's secret and proof of Michael's disloyalty. For the first time in years, the power was in my hands. I locked eyes with Samantha and said evenly, we need to talk alone. She stiffened, clearly sensing danger. Back at the hospital hallway, I told her flat out, I know about the procedure you had last year. Daniel doesn't. Dr. Priya told me. Her face drained of color, her hands trembling. You wouldn't dare, she whispered. But I didn't need to threaten. I just told her, cold as steel, I don't want your fake apologies. I want you to finally feel invisible the way I've felt my whole life. She knew I could shatter her carefully built image. Still, I wasn't after pure destruction. I wanted my dignity back. Later, Daniel cornered me, his smugness a little cracked. Rachel, I heard you're good at organizing things. My startup's falling apart, investors are leaving. Maybe you and I could partner. I almost laughed. The man who backed my sister through every betrayal wanted my help now? No, Daniel. I'm done cleaning up after you, I said firmly. Watching his face fall was the first taste of freedom I'd had in years. Within a week, I sat in a lawyer's office. Mrs. Evelyn had recommended him and filed for divorce. It was gut-wrenching, but those fake texts with Lauren turned spy were the last straw. Michael begged, it was a mistake, Rachel. But I told him flatly, you picked a barbecue over my life's work. You don't get to pick me now. I packed my things and rented a small apartment in Fort Mill, overlooking the park. It was modest, but it felt like a fresh start for me and the kids. At first, Ethan and Chloe clung to Michael's promises of fun weekends, but when the custody hearing came, I sat them down. Holding their hands, I said, I've spent years fighting for us. Your dad and your aunt chose a party over me, and over you getting hurt. I'll never do that to you. I'll always show up. Chloe's eyes filled with tears, and Ethan, usually my rebel, nodded. We want to stay with you, Mom. The judge saw the hospital records and Michael's absence from my graduation and granted me primary custody. It wasn't about winning, it was about teaching my kids what family is supposed to mean. A month later, Vanessa, one of Samantha's old friends, called me bragging about her big design gala in Atlanta. You should have seen it, Rachel, she gushed, blind to what I'd been through. Instead of shrinking like I used to, I felt a new strength rise in me. That's great, Vanessa, I said calmly. I'm building something better on my own terms. When Samantha stayed quiet, I knew she understood exactly what I meant. I wasn't playing the comparison game anymore, and I sure wasn't living in her shadow. A week later, Mom and Dad sent this long, drawn-out email full of justifications about why Samantha's special moment mattered more. I didn't bother to answer. Instead, I shot back one short message. I'm done being treated like I'm less. Don't reach out until you can respect me the same as her. It stung to cut them off, but honestly, it felt like finally dropping a weight I'd been dragging my whole life. Samantha blew up my phone with voicemails about family unity, but I blocked her. After what happened, my graduation being ignored, Ethan getting hurt, all the years of being dismissed, I'd had enough. Around that time, my promotion to senior logistics analyst finally came through. Bigger paycheck, my own office, it felt like validation that my work actually mattered, even if my family never saw it. Mrs. Evelyn, my nosy but oddly loyal neighbor, stopped by with a little plant for my new apartment and said, "Rachel, you're stronger than any of them ever gave you credit for." And for the first time, I believed it. Looking back now, I see the truth. Self-respect will always outweigh blood ties if those ties keep choking you. I gave 4 years of my life grinding through that degree, not just for me but for my kids, and my family chose a barbecue, basically a cover story for Samantha's drama over showing up for me. So here's what I've learned. Never let anyone, family or not, shrink you down for daring to chase your dreams. If they can't stand beside you, then you walk away with your head high. Your worth is yours alone, and that's the freedom I finally claimed. Thanks for hearing me out. If my story resonates, hit that subscribe and share what you've been through. Have you ever had to draw the line with family who let you down? I'd love to hear your story.